We're still in Marble Run here, so I need to go through the file dropdown and do new project. And this project's going to be a blueprint again, and we are going to have a blank template. We're going to develop this for desktop. We want maximum quality, and we are going to use starter content. And now let's name this Crystal Caverns, and we'll get this built. All right, there we go. That's a familiar scene. So this time we're not going to begin with the starter level. We're going to actually create a new level by going to File and New Level. Default is what was selected by default, and this time we're actually going to do empty level. So this is completely void of any assets, the skybox, lighting, anything. So real quick, I'm just going to save this level and set it as our default level. I'm saving it in a new folder called Levels, and we'll just name it Level 1. Then we want to go into our project settings and just set the default level by going to the maps and modes and then changing our level to Level 1. And that'll be it for now. See you later. We're going to build our level the same way that we did with Marble Run by going to Modes, Geometry, and add in a box brush or a BSP brush. This is our little painting tool that we used before to make the maze. And so we're going to do the same. The level in this game is going to be a long corridor with some gaps in the floor. As you can see here though, the box is flickering and you can't really see anything. That's because we have no lights in the level. The level is completely dark. If we go to our view modes over here, we have lit selected. If we go over to unlit, we can see how the box usually looks if there's a light on it. So we'll leave it on unlit as we build the level, and then move back to lit when we add lights. On the next video, I'll build out the corridor. I'll see you then. Alright, so I'm going to use BSB brushes to build out our level. Our level is going to be a long corridor with some areas where you can fall through the map. Alright, there's our floor. Now we'll add some walls. Alright, perfect. That'll work for now. We might change it up a little bit later. Next time we'll add some lights. I'll see you then. Alright, let's talk about auto exposure real quick. So I built a little enclosed house with a point light in it so that we could see the auto exposure. So I'm going to spawn in and watch the light and see if it gets brighter or darker. The reason it does this is a setting called auto exposure, and it's on by default because it simulates how your eyes would react when walking into a bright room for the first time. We don't want the effect in this game, so we're going to turn it off. The setting itself is found in Project Settings, under the Engine category, and then Rendering. And down in default settings, there's just a little checkbox that says auto exposure. Let's turn that off, and then let's launch the game again and see if the light changes. Nope, so that's what we want here, and we will be using that in this project. I'll see you next time. All right, let's talk about some lighting options. So when you select any type of light, there's a category down here under Transform that's called Mobility. Mobility has three options: static, stationary, and movable. Static means that the lighting will never change even if something walks by or an object moves through the light source where it would otherwise cast a shadow. Movable means that shadows are always updated, so no matter if an object is static or moving through the light, the shadow will always be in real time. And stationary is a mix of the two, where if an object is static and is not supposed to move, the shadow will always be the same even if the light moves. But for movable objects, the shadows are constantly updating. So those were some brief examples on static, stationary, and movable lights. For our project, we're going to be using stationary. It's a good mix between realistic lighting, but something that doesn't take up too much computing power like movable. More lighting stuff soon. See you next time. Let's go through all the light options that we have in Unreal Engine. The first one we're going to look at is directional light. Directional light is what you would use for something like the sun if you're outside. It's a big light that points into the direction that it's set at and applies to your whole level. You can use that to simulate something like a day-night cycle in your game, where the sun is actually moving around as a light source. So this directional light is actually changing along with the time of day. We have some options here. Intensity is just how bright it is. One looks like that. 10 looks like that. You can change the light color. So let's say you want something like you are on Mars or some barren planet. You can do something kind of brown and darker. Those are the two options you would normally use, and there's a few more advanced ones that we are probably not going to use for this project. So that's the directional light. We'll move on to more lights next time. See you then. All right, we're going to talk about two lights today. The first one is a point light. So let me move over to our corridor here and start dragging this in. You can see that the point light is what it says it is. It is just a specific point that emits light. Just like the directional light, we have some options here. Intensity, let's bring that up to 50. We can change the light color as well. You can do a nice dark red for something a little spookier. Let's scoot over to this other wall and pull in a rectangular light. And the rectangular light is exactly the same as the point light, except it's essentially only projecting light in a half circle. So if this radius is cut in half, it's only producing light on the right side and not the left side. And the rectangle light has all of the same options as the point light. All right, more lights to come. See you then. All right, today I'm going to show you the spotlight, which is a little bit more advanced in terms of a potential light that we can use. So the spotlight is a directional light, so we can change essentially where the light should go to, and then we can change this cone around the radius, the intensity, everything like that to really highlight what we're trying to highlight. So you might see these like if you are walking past a trophy case in a game and a light is pointed directly at a trophy. Let's bump the intensity up a little bit so we can actually see this. And then the spotlight has essentially two different cones, an inner cone and an outer cone. The inner cone is essentially that very direct light, where the outer cone would then fill in light around the source to make it look a little bit more natural or blend in with your environment. As we move the outer cone angle out a little bit, you can see that the light blends into the environment more and more. All right, one more light to go through in next video. I'll see you then. The last light we have here is the Skylight. And the Skylight doesn't do anything right now in our level because we don't have a skybox set up. We can change that by going to our source type and changing the captured scene to a specified cube map. Unreal has a default cube map that we can use. And when we apply that, we get our kind of skylight. So the Skylight is just an ambient light that goes throughout the whole level. And we can change normal things like the color and the intensity. And as you see, when the intensity is lower, our other lights still show up, but you can still see the pink coming from our Skylight. And that's it. That's all the lights that we have. So we're going to utilize different types of light to make our corridor here come to life. I'll see you next time. And what we're going to do now is just add a few materials to the corridor to make it look a little bit nicer. So I'm just going to go over to my materials tab. And since this is still a BSB box, we would have to select all surfaces to change the material. So I am going to control click all of our shapes here for the floor. Go to geometry, select, and select all adjacent surfaces. So it's selecting everything for me. And now let's select a material. Let's see how the concrete tiles look. So I can drag that over and it applies it to everything. I think I want something a little rougher. How about brick cut stone? Sure, that works. So let's do the same to the walls. And we want something that matches our cave atmosphere. So let's try rock slate. That looks pretty cavey. We'll stick with that for now. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games. And today I learned a little bit about level design with lighting. Right now our corridor is very dark. Let's switch over to the lit mode. I really like how these point lights look, and I like even better when they're underneath our map here. So for this video, I'm just gonna add some lighting to make our corridor look a little bit better. So as you can see in the video, I am just placing a bunch of random lights, moving it around, just trying to see what looks good. A lot of level design is like that. You might have an idea of one thing, and when you put it in place, it just doesn't look as good as you thought it was in your head. All right, I think I like this. For now, we're gonna leave it there. More objects are gonna get added, so we might change the lighting up later. But for now, this looks like a fairly well-lit corridor, but still kind of dark and gloomy. I think that's the feel we want to go for. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to make an actor blueprint. We're going to create our first blueprint actor. We just right click in our content browser and we're gonna add an actor. Now let's open that up. So every actor has a root component. But for our actor to actually do anything, we're gonna have to add components to this root. And there's a whole selection of them: audio, point light, skeletal mesh, static mesh, cube. All of these things can be added to this one actor so that when we go into our level and start adding these actors, which are eventually going to be our crystals that we collect for our game, these will actually do something instead of being invisible when we play the game. All right, next time we will actually add these components in. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned what a root component is in an actor blueprint. To help visualize what an actor is, I am going to add a couple static mesh components. First one's going to be a cube, and the second one's going to be a sphere. So the cube and the sphere are both items that make up the actor. If we go back into our level, now we can see that each one of these actors that we dragged in the last video have the sphere and the cube attached to them. Usually you'd only add one static mesh. Just for fun, we're going to use some of these basic shapes to make a little character. He's going to look real ugly, but that's okay. All right, there we go. We got a little chunky boy with no legs. Go back into our level, and there he is again. Now you can see him in their level. They kind of look like janky NPCs. That was a quick summary on adding components to an actor. Next time, we'll change this actor to actually become one of the crystals in our game. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I made a crystal. All right, let's change our actor into a diamond or a crystal. So I don't have a static mesh of a crystal, but what I do have is a pyramid. So we can utilize our pyramid. So I can actually copy this and rotate it 180 degrees. And there we go, we have a crystal. Our crystal looks a little goofy, so I'm actually gonna use a different pyramid. There, and that looks a little bit better. So we have the base of our crystal. We'll add some more components in later. Our crystal's pretty dang big in our level. We want to shrink it a little bit. So I'll select both sizes, do scale. Let's go to 0.25. That looks way better. These will be collectibles, so we want them a little bit smaller, but that looks good. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I made a player pawn. We're gonna add a blueprint just like the other one, and this time it's gonna be a pawn instead of an actor. That means that we can actually control it, and I'm gonna open that up. We're gonna add 3 components: a static mesh, a camera spring arm, and a camera. Now that we have a camera, we can modify how you look at the player character. In this case, it's gonna be our marble. Now that those components are added, we can see them in the viewport. And just like other components, we can actually rotate this so that when we play the game, the camera will be coming down and looking from the top of the player. Next time, we'll see what it looks like in game when we actually play our character and change some of the camera settings. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today we're going to play with some camera settings. So I dragged our pawn in, and you can see that the camera is pointing at the pawn, and we have a little viewport down here where we can see what the camera is seeing. So right now, if you played the game, this is how you would see your pawn. Let's go back to the blueprint and just move the camera over a little bit so that it's kind of hovering over the right side. We'll go back into our game and look at the viewport, and you can see that the camera is just off to the right now. Let's go back in, we'll reset the camera, and we'll move the camera to be directly above the marble. We'll look at the viewport again. The camera's directly above the marble, kind of like how it was in Marble Run. We can also change how far away the camera is by editing the target arm length on our spring arm. It's 300 right now. Let's change it to 1000. And now you see that the camera is very far away. So we can pretty easily change the position of the camera. And you'd want to do that depending on the game that you're making. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to possess a pawn. All right, so now we have our pawn just in the world and we still see our camera, but if I press play right now, I actually don't control that pawn. I am still just a floating ghost running around. So what we need to do is called possession. We actually have to make sure that the player 0, is possessing this specific pawn. And to do that, we actually just select that pawn that's already in the world. We have an option down here called auto possess player and a drop down. It's on disabled. We want to select player 0 and then let's play our game. And there we go. So now we are actually possessing that pawn and the camera is where we set it. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned about an AI controller. Right now when we press play, we're taking possession of our pawn, and if we go down to the world outliner, we can see BP player, which is us possessing this specific pawn. However, if I happen to drag in more of these BP players and then press play, so we're still possessing that first one, but if we go back over to the world outliner, we'll see two new options up here called AI Controller and AI Controller 1. So what that means is when we play our game, the AI is possessing these pawns instead of us. And that's helpful for games where you actually do have AI that are interacting with you or trying to fight you or whatever they are. Then we can specifically code in AI commands versus player commands. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I made a game mode based blueprint. So we're going to create a blueprint class, another one, and this one's going to be the game mode base. We want to make one right now so that we can set what we default spawn into. Now that that's made, let's open it up, and here's all of our defaults. We're not going to use all of these right now other than the default pawn class, and we're going to go ahead and set that over to our BP player. That was the player pawn we made a few videos ago. We'll go back over to our pawn. Let's disable this auto possess, and then one last thing that we'll have to do, we'll go to our project settings into the maps and modes, and we want to change our default game mode over to the one that we just made, which is our blueprint game mode base. So with that in there, let's play our game, and look at that, we spawned as our pawn. We're actually a whole brand new pawn. You can see the old one over there. This is the one that we spawned in as, and this is the one still in our map. So let's go ahead and delete that one. All right, so that was a game mode base. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added physics to my player pawn. All right, right now when we press play, we spawn as the ball, but it just kind of floats there in air. We're gonna eventually want to have physics on our ball, so let's enable that right now. To enable that, what we're going to do is open up our player blueprint, and with the static mesh selected, over in the physics column, we're gonna want to enable simulate physics, and all of the defaults there should be all set up correctly, so let's just compile and try that. And there we go. When we spawn into the world now, we drop all the way down to the floor. And that's it. Now we have physics. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned a little bit more about a root class. But what happens when we have another static mesh that doesn't have physics enabled on it? So with that in place, let's play our game. It still just stays there and there's no physics. So if I go down and simulate physics on that pillar, press play, and you see that the pillar still stays there. So it doesn't matter if we're checking the simulate physics option on the pillar or not, it's still gonna just kind of hang out and doesn't really know what to do. To fix that, we can actually drag that new mesh, the pillar, onto our old one and add it as a child to our marble. Play our game. It'll start falling with it. So Unreal doesn't really like when you have two different static meshes in the same priority. So as we move forward, we just need to keep that in mind, that if we ever add another static mesh, it should be the child of another static mesh. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I fixed a common camera problem. So right now we have our camera attached to our marble, and when we play the game, that camera follows along. However, what do you think will happen if we add in a ramp so that the marble rolls down the ramp? So with this ramp placed in there, let's press play. And we get a very unwanted effect there where our camera's actually rolling down the ramp with us, and you are getting a very nauseating effect. So on our blueprint, the spring arm is attached relatively to our marble. So that means if the marble rotates, our camera's gonna rotate. Instead, we can change this over to world. So the camera will only rotate if the world rotates. So with that changed, let's go over and have our ball fall down the ramp again. And there we go. So now the camera doesn't fly around like it was before. Awesome. So we fixed that camera problem. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added some axis mapping. So we're ready to start controlling our marble here. To do so, we're gonna have to add some mappings so that when we press keys, we can call to that event and actually move or rotate, in this case, the marble, so that we can actually move it forward, backward, left, and right. To do so, we're gonna go over to project settings and go to our input category under engine, and up here we have a binding section, and we have action mappings and axis mappings. So action would be a one-time event, so that would be like jumping. For continuous movement, we want to do an axis mapping. We're going to do W and S as moving forward and backwards, and to move forward we want to use the W keys. To move backwards we want to use the S key. So there's our forward and backwards. Let's add another one, which is going to be move left and right, and for those keys we're going to want D, and then we're going to want A. All right, that's it. So now we can actually call call these when we start programming next time. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I prepared our marble for when we start moving. Right now what I want to do is I want to add a material to our ball here, or our marble. Adding a material will help us be able to see when the ball's rotating or moving or anything. So this might look a little funky, but I'll add the bricks because it's easy to see with the lines. Right now I'm playing our game and the camera is really far out. What we want to do is move it a little closer so we can see how the marble is moving. To do that, we're just going to go over to our asset again, and we will just make our spring arm a little bit less. It's 1,000 right now. Let's bring it to about 400, and let's move it so we're looking at the side of the ball. Let's see how that looks. All right, cool. That'll help us be able to visualize where our ball is moving to. All right, so the next few videos, we'll be playing around with our movement. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added axis events into our blueprint. The last video, we made these axis mappings. These are binding keys to specific events, the move forward, backwards, and move left and right. And so now we're gonna go over to the blueprint for our player pawn, and we're gonna add those events in. So we can add them just like normal, right click, we'll search for move forward, backwards, and there it is, axis event, move forwards and backwards. Let's add that in. And then we have one more for our left and right, and we'll add that in. So that's it for this video. We will actually be using these to move the ball left and right in the next one. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today we're gonna finally move our marble through the cave. All right, so we have our marble here. Let's move over to the blueprint, and we'll set up the forwards and backwards. So what we're gonna do is we need to get our current world location, and we wanna make sure our target is the marble, so it's getting the marble's location. And we'll eventually set this world location, but we wanna take our current world location. We want to add our input, that's us holding down the W or the S key to move forward and backwards. We want to add those two values together. Let's grab our X value, and then let's grab our actual input value. And the result of that will be our new location X. All right, let's give that a try. Press play, and then let's press W, and we move forward. Let's press S, and we move backwards. Awesome, that's what we wanted. All right, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I'm gonna move our marble left and right. Okay, so last video, we got our marble to move in the forward and backwards direction when we hold down our keys. What we're gonna do now is just copy and paste that code. Unreal really didn't like that, so instead we'll be using the same functions, which works the same way, where we will add another float plus float. We'll connect it to the Y component this time, and connect our output. And then let's give this a try. Forward, backwards, right and left. Perfect. So now we can move the ball around. But you might be telling yourself, wow, that looks really bad. That's not how a marble actually moves. And you would be absolutely correct. So this is a functional way to actually move our marble around, but it doesn't look very good. It looked much better if we were rolling the marble. Then the next video, we'll be adding torque to move the ball instead of just setting our world location. So look forward to that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to add torque to an actor so that we can move our marble. There's a very simple function that we'll use for this, and it's called add torque. Let's look at our marble real quick. Torque is a rotational force, so we're gonna actually be rotating our marble on the axis. We want to rotate on the green axis because that'll bring us forward and backwards. So our green axis was Y. Let's plug that over into Y. All right, with that set up, let's test. Holding W key, and perfect, our ball's actually moving, and S will move it backwards. Left and right don't do anything yet, but this is a great start. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I started to roll our marble left and right. Okay, we're back in our blueprint again. So we're gonna add our left and right roll. We're gonna have to pick what axis we want again. Looking back at our marble, it's gonna be the X axis that we want to move left and right. So let's tie this to X and try it out. So this is pressing D, and then this is pressing A. So those are backwards, but we are moving left and right, and man, that's confusing. So how we're gonna fix that is go back into our project settings. We have a scale 1 and -1. That's how we're able to use two different keys for the same macro. So we'll just swap those real quick. And with those swapped, let's try again. And there we go. D moves us right and A moves us left. Awesome, so we finally have movement for our marble. This is great. We'll add more next video. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned about the acceleration change option on an add torque function. If you look at our add torque function, we have an option down here called acceleration change. What this does is if it's enabled, it ignores the mass of whatever object we have this applied to. So in this case, our marble. With it unchecked still, let's play our game and look how the ball moves. It's pretty slow to change direction. And we also had to multiply our input by 1,000,000 just to be able to move a little bit. So let's enable the acceleration change and play again. You can see our marbles moving way too fast now. Kind of looks like Sonic the Hedgehog. Let's bump our multiplier down to about 15. All right, and that's a bit more normal. We're gonna keep that option enabled, and that'll be it for this video. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to add a variable into our blueprint. All right, last video we looked at this number that we're multiplying our axis value by to get the torque that we want on our marble. Right now this is just a random number, and we want to avoid that in all of our programming. It can get really hard to keep track of all the numbers that you have in your blueprint, so you want to tie these to variables. So let's make a new variable. To do so, we'll go down to our My Blueprint tab here, and under variables we'll press this plus mark, and it creates a new variable. Let's call this acceleration multiplier, and that's it, it's made. But right now it's a Boolean, which we do not want. We want it to be a float. So we'll just click this red button here and change it from Boolean to float. And then we can drag this into our blueprint. And we'll tie that into our multiplication function instead of using that number. And we'll make sure that our multiplier is set at 15 here down in the default value. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to use the extrude tool on a BSP brush. So what we've got right now is a basic BSP brush box. We've used this tool to make our whole corridor here. And just to recap, when we select a face and drag it, we're making that shape bigger, but it all has the same amount of faces. So if we select a face and then drag it up or down, we're gonna be moving that whole shape. So instead of adding new boxes every time, what we can instead do is go over to our extrude option, drag this out a little bit further like normal, but now what we've done is we have separate faces for that new shape. So if we wanted to just pull this up a little bit, we've now made a ramp with a flat platform instead of just a complete incline. And we can continue to extrude on any of our new surfaces here. So we'll use the extrude tool in our next video as we build out this level a little bit more. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I optimized my level. So right now our corridor is broken into many different sections. What we're gonna do is build bridges across these sections, but they're a little bit too close. So right now I'm gonna delete some of these, so later on we can make this level a little bit more difficult. Let's add a big gap there. Let's delete this one completely. And I'd like to make these all longer. So we'll extend those and then leave that gap, and that can be our end. And this one, let's actually raise up a little bit and scoot this over. All right, in the next video, we'll add bridges to connect all of these platforms so that we can roll through the level. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I made my level a little bit more difficult by adding bridges. All right, so here's our level. We just added some spaces here. I'm going to use the BSP extrude tool to add some bridges, and I'll be play testing it as I go, just to make sure that it's complicated, a little complex where we have to move around specifically, but possible. You can actually move the marble across the bridges and also not too difficult. All right, we've got some bridges in there, and we'll finish up the rest next time. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added a bit more to our level. So here's our bridges so far that we've made. I'm going to go over here and do this part today. I want the player to have to zigzag through this section, so we're gonna add a few things to make that happen. All right, that might not be the best use of space there, but we've got something going. We're gonna play with this a little bit next time, and I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Learning how to make video games, and today I changed some camera settings so that we can test our level. I had changed our camera position earlier just so that we could see the movement a bit better. I wanna bring the camera back so it's more of a top-down view. So what we'll do is we will just zero out our spring arm here. We'll rotate it back up, And we'll change the arm length again back to 1000. Well, that's a little wonky. All right, there we go. Our camera was just tilted. This is good. We can't really see our level too well though. All right, some quick changes there. Here we go. So we can see our platforms a bit better. Now that our camera angle is back to normal, next video we'll fix another camera issue that we're probably gonna run into. So I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today we disabled a default camera setting. This setting is something we don't want for this game, but is very useful in most other games. So we're gonna have a problem here when we start going under things with our camera. You'll see it gets really close and far away. That's on purpose, but it's a little disorienting, so we're gonna disable that option. That setting is called Do Collision Test over on our spring arm details, so I'm gonna uncheck that real quick. Now let's try going under this platform again, and there we go. So now our camera stays exactly where it's supposed to be. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I'm just play testing our level a little bit. All right, so let's get started and press play. When building this first bridge gave me a lot of problems. It's very skinny. All right, there we go. That looks a little goofy, but it should help the player out. We can fix that later. Perfect, we made it across. It was a little difficult. All right, that was a pretty bumpy ride, but we did make it to the end. We'll make some more optimizations later. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added a way to reset our level. So right now we have a problem where if we play the game and then we roll off the cliff here, we just fall endlessly into the void. We don't want that to happen. We want the level to reset when we fall off the cliff. So in the past, we used this box trigger function, where if any object passes into the box, we can write some code to do something. This would still work fine in this case, but if we make more levels, we're gonna have to redo this every single time. So instead, we wanna make a blueprint, and by making a blueprint, when we make a new level, we can just drag that blueprint in and we don't have to recode anything. All right, so we have that new blueprint opened, and all we're gonna do here is we'll add a component called a box collision. This works the same thing as the box trigger. These will work essentially the same, but we still have to do the coding for our new one. And so we'll do that coding in the next video. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today we made our own custom box trigger blueprint. All right, so we're gonna add an event into our visual scripting here. So what we want is on component begin overlap. So this thing is gonna compare two actors, and it'll execute a function if those two actors are overlapping each other. So this event already has our trigger, so we want to get our current player pawn. So now we have a boolean where it says are you equal or not, which is perfect for a branch. It's looking at these two actors and it says, hey, is the player pawn overlapping the trigger box? If it is, we want to get our current level name, and then we want to open another level, and we will tie these two together and it'll automatically convert it. There we go. That should be all we need, and it should work. We will test this out in the next video though. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today we're testing out our level reset function. So over here in our event graph, we have our reset all set up. I'm just gonna compile that and move to our level. So here's our reset level box. I'm gonna keep it there and play. So when we roll left and hit that box, we are opening our new level, or essentially resetting it. Let's move it down where we want it to be. All right, we made that way bigger. So now it will trigger. We can see here, just pretty much right after we fall in, it'll hit this box trigger and reset the level. Let's try that out. Roll forward and off. And there we go. So now we're successfully restarting our level whenever we fall off of a cliff. All right, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I did a bunch of level editing. So I'm gonna go through here and just make a ton of changes, get this level looking good and playing well. This is our first section. I like how it's laid out. I just don't like the shape of it, so I'm gonna redo that shape. All right, here we go. Here's the updated version of it. It looks essentially the same. We've got a few ramps, and you have to collect these crystals before making your final jump over to the next ledge. Okay, here's the next section that we're gonna update. I really like these ramps. I'm just gonna touch them up a little bit. There we go, ramps are touched up. Now for our last section, I like the multi-floor setup, but we're not using the space very well. We'll see what we can do here. And there we go, stretched it out a little bit so it makes use of that space much better. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added some lights to our crystal. I know the level's really dark. We're going to go into our crystal blueprint right here, and I'm gonna add a light component. So what we want for our crystal is we want it to emit just a very faint blue glow so you can see it in the level. So on our point light, I increased the length of our light a little bit, the source length, and gave it a source radius. That just makes it shine kind of within the crystal or very closely around the crystal. Looking over at our level, we have a very nice glowing crystal in there. So I think that looks good. So let's add back the normal lighting. And there we go. Just like we did with the level itself, we might tweak that a little bit later, but at least our crystals look a little less boring now. All right, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to make a camera fade when we lose the game. So just to demonstrate, when we fall off right now, it just immediately restarts the game and it feels a little arcadey or clunky. So we're gonna use a function called start camera fade. So how we're gonna tie in this fade is we're gonna get the player camera manager. What this does is it sets the target to the player camera, not other cameras. And then we're gonna tie this in right after we know that we are going through our trigger box at the bottom. So our from and to here is essentially, do we want to fade in or fade out? We want to fade out in this instance, so to alpha will be 1 and from alpha will stay 0. We're gonna change the color from black to red. Then the last thing that we need to do is we need to add a delay here, just so the level doesn't immediately restart. All right, let's roll back off our ledge here. There we go, and so it turns a very bright red when we fail. Awesome, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to fade in the camera when we begin the level. So right now when we press play, the camera is very steady. So just like how we added some impact when we are falling off the ledge and lose the game, we want to add some impact via the camera fade when we start the game. So to do that, we're going to move over to our player pawn blueprint, and on begin play, we're going to call that same function that we just used, the start camera fade. And we need to call our player camera manager. So once those are tied in, we're gonna do the from alpha and to alpha. So we're gonna be fading in when we restart the level, which means that this time our from alpha will be 1 and our to alpha will be 0. So when we press play here, you can see that the camera fades in. And then if we fall off the cliff, it fades out to that red, fades back in. And so it'll do that every time we restart the level. So there's no real functional use for that other than just a bit of polish. It makes the game look a little bit better. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next video. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to create a material. I have a material here, and I wanted to go through just the basic options that you can do when creating a new material. The first one is base color, where you input an RGB value, so you have 3 values there. You can also just pick it from a color wheel, and it'll set that color to the material. The next option we have is metallic, where at the value of 0, it represents a non-metallic material, and at 1, it represents a fully metallic material. And we'll go over some other options in the next video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today we're learning a little bit more about material options. The next one we have is specular, and this is the material's ability to reflect light. At 0, it'll reflect no light, and at 1, it'll fully reflect light. You'd use this for some items like ice or water. Roughness represents how rough a material looks. So in this material right now, it's fully smooth, and you can see the reflection of the buildings around it. At 1, it's completely rough, and you can't really see any reflection. And the last one we're gonna look at is emissive color, where it works the same as base color, where we set our RGB value. By default, it doesn't emit too much light, it just looks a little shinier. If we want to emit more light than the default, we can add a multiply function in there and change this value. So here's it at 5, here's it at 50, and here's it at 500. So you can see it almost infinitely scales. And that's it for materials. We'll add one of these to an object in the game next time. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added an emissive material to our crystal. So here's our crystal right now. In a previous video, I added a point light in there to make it glow a little bit. The material itself is still the default white though, so we want to put an emissive material on there. We made this green one last time. So what we can do is let's just change this over to blue. Let's back that value off a bit over to 50 again. So with that material saved, we can go into our crystal blueprint, and under each of these objects, the pyramid, we can set it to our custom material, which is our M crystal. The material on this crystal looks a lot better now and a little bit more uniform, so let's save that. and it's automatically applied in our level once we save it. So that's it, we got a crystal that's looking a little bit better now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added collision to my crystal. So we're gonna eventually be picking this crystal up, so what we need to do is add collision so that we can code that in. Right now, our collision would just be our top and bottom pyramid. We don't want that because that's a little too small. So with both of those meshes selected, I'm gonna turn off collision, which is a preset, and we just select no collision. Just to demonstrate that collision's now off, I'm going to roll over my crystal, and you can see we can roll through it. Now we're gonna add a component called sphere collisions. So it just adds a big sphere around our crystal, and then that's the new collision box. And I'm gonna make this the root component, and we can change this radius to whatever we want. I'm gonna put it at about 40. Now when we move over to our crystal, you can see that we're colliding with it, and it's not the crystal itself, it's actually that sphere that's around it. All right, that's it for this video. We'll add some code to the collision next time. Thanks for watching, I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to destroy an actor when you overlap with it. So we have our collision sphere set up on our crystals. Let's go over to our crystal and into the visual scripting section here. And when our player pawn overlaps with this crystal, we want to destroy the actor. So we'll need to get our player pawn, because that'll be our other actor. And we're gonna say when these two equal each other, we'll have a branch. So it'll either be true or false. And when these two are overlapping, player pawn and the crystal, we're going to call a function called destroy actor. And destroy actor will destroy or remove itself from the game, because the target is the self, which is the crystal, because we're in the crystal blueprint. So that's it, simple code. Let's compile and try it out. And so now whenever I run into a crystal, it'll just disappear. So we'll be able to use that when we are coding in how to actually collect these and how the game keeps track if you've collected all of them, but we'll expand on that later. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned about a timeline. Now, a timeline is added in the visual scripting section. If we double click it, we pull up our graph. A timeline is a graph where the x-axis is time and the y-axis is a value. And right now I have 2 points set up, one at 0, 0, and I have one at time 0.6 and value 0.5. So the timeline essentially produces a value depending on how long it's been since the time started. So for an example, I hooked up our begin play event, and it's hooked up to play. So right when we start the game, timeline is going to begin. And so this alpha track variable is just going to be constantly updating for that 0 to 0.6 seconds that we have set up in the timeline. This will make more sense when we can visually see it when we add the next component into this process. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned a little bit about linear interpolation and how to add it into our game. So last time we got this timeline set up, and now what we need to do is add a lerp. Point A is going to be our crystal, and point B is the marble. And then our alpha value is going to be taken from our timeline. So let's set that up. A is our crystal, and we're going to set this as a variable. B is our player pawn, so we're going to want to get our current location. And then alpha is going to be tied into our alpha track from the timeline. Our return value is what we want, and it's going to be the set actor location. So now that all of these functions are independently set up, what's going to happen is when this timeline starts, it's going to grab whatever position the crystal's in, it's going to grab whatever position the player is in, and over that 0.6 seconds, it'll update the crystal so it smoothly moves into the marble. In the next video, we're going to hook this up to our main program and test it out so you can see what we've been doing. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to move our crystal into our marble. All right, so our timeline and our lerp is all set up here. There's a couple things that we need to add. The first thing is we need to set the crystal's start position, which is as simple as getting the actor location right when the overlap happens. And now we can hook up our play. Now we can drag our update to the set actor location so that every tick of the timeline, it is updating our actor location and slowly bringing that crystal closer to the marble. And then once the timeline is finished, we want to destroy the crystal. All right, let's play the game and see how that looks. You'll see that the ball's current location isn't getting updated when we go over a crystal, so we'll fix that next time. Thanks for watching, I'll see you later. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I fixed a bug for our crystal collection feature. So what's happening is whenever I overlap with the crystal's going to move to my spawn location instead of my current location. So I'm over in my player pawn blueprint again, and the reason it was doing that is because my default scene root. So my root component of my player class was actually just the scene and not the marble itself. So if I make the marble my root and go try again, these crystals will go into the marble like they're supposed to. When the scene was my root, my marble's position was never updating. So that value was always just what it started at, which is where I spawn in as. So with that bug squash, we can move along. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I made two custom functions called move to player and store starting values. So what we've got right now is our crystal blueprint, where we are moving the crystal to the player whenever they collect it. And this code is a bit messy. So what we're gonna do is collapse this into a function, and we can do that by right-clicking and then pressing collapse to function. Now, all of those things automatically got put into a new blue box. So if we double click it, here's our old function. So there's one more function we're gonna create, and that's where we set the start position for our crystal. This one's really simple, but we're gonna expand on it later, so we might as well do this now. All right, and that's it for this video. We cleaned that up a little bit. Now our code is much easier to read. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I made the crystal scale smaller as it moves over to the player. So right now when a crystal comes to us, it just stays the same size and then disappears once it hits us. What I want to do is make that crystal smaller slowly as it comes over. So we have our timeline here, and we're gonna add another track. All right, so I added 2 more points. So first thing is we need to store our starting scale. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to get the actor scale. I'm gonna promote the return value to a variable and tie it together, and then that's it. So the thing we're doing here is setting the actor's scale. We're gonna use a lerp like we did last time to get our return value. Our A is gonna be start scale, and then B is actually gonna be 0 because we want it to start as big as it is. We want it to slowly disappear. And then our alpha is tied into our new track that we made. So with that all connected, let's give it a shot. And there we go. When we roll over a crystal, it gets smaller. Awesome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I scaled the crystal so it gets a little bit bigger before it disappears when it hits the marble. So right now the crystal gets smaller as it's sucked into the marble. I'm gonna open our timeline again, and like I said, these 2 tracks are exactly the same, but I'm gonna change this bottom one. This bottom one is the one that our scaling is tied to. So what I did here is I added another point between the 0 and the 1, and this point is actually going negative. So when we were going from 0 to 1, we were scaling smaller, so our scale is kind of reversed. So when we're adding this negative value, that means that our scale is gonna get bigger, and then it's gonna get smaller, all in the same time frame. So let's compile that and see how the crystal looks now. Sweet. So now when we run over a crystal, you'll see it kind of pulses or gets a little bit bigger before it enters the marble. Awesome, that's what we were going for. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I scaled the light intensity as the crystal moves towards our marble. All right, so we've been playing a lot with the timelines, and this is how our crystal looks right now. And now what we're gonna do is that light intensity, that blue light, stays the same as it's moving in. So let's utilize our timeline and scale that down to 0 as well. So same process here, we're gonna add a track. I've got my points in there, 0, 0, and then 0.6 to 1. Next thing we need to do is set our starting value again. So now we're getting the starting intensity, so we can use that in our lerp. We're gonna set our intensity of the crystal light. A is gonna be our start light variable, B is gonna be 0 again, and then alpha will be tied into our new timeline track. All right, that's all set up. Let's check it out. Sweet, it's a little hard to see, but the intensity is getting smaller. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added 2 different light options for the dimming effect on our crystal. So I went back into our timeline and I changed it from the linear scale to more of a zigzaggy shape. Let's play the game and see how this looks. All right, so it flashes back and forth and kind of has a strobe effect. Let's take another look at the other effect that I had where it just straight dims. I'm not sure which one of these I like better. Why don't you guys let me know in the comments which effect you like the best and which one I should keep in the game. The strobing effect like this, or the straight dimming effect like this. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to scale the attenuation radius on our crystal. Okay, so the light on our crystal can essentially be scaled down in 3 ways, maybe 2 ways. The first way is no scaling, so this is how that looks. The second way is if we scale the light intensity, so this is how that looks. And the third way is if we scale the attenuation radius, and so this is how that looks. So if you noticed here, when we're only scaling the attenuation radius, when the crystal gets really close, it's super bright on the marble. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna scale both the light intensity and the attenuation radius. And so this is how that looks. And I really like using both of these options. So that's what we're gonna do for the game. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I put a blueprint macro in our program. So we have one more thing that we want to clean up, and that's our player pawn overlap check. It'd be nice if we could use a function like we did before, but in this case we have to use a blueprint macro, and the difference there is a macro can give us inputs and outputs, where a function can only give you one output. So with these three things selected, I'm going to collapse it to a macro. First thing we're going to do is rename our input to actor. One more thing is we're gonna add another output, which will be not player, and then the first one is player. And that way we can have our false get connected there in the macro as well. All right, our code is a lot cleaner than it was before. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I set up a projectile actor. So we're gonna add projectiles in our level to make it a little bit more difficult to cross these obstacles. We need to make another blueprint for our projectile, and there's a few components that we're going to add. We're going to add a collision component. This sphere collision will eventually let us destroy this projectile when it hits anything. We need the projectile to be something, so we're going to add a sphere mesh. Let's put a material on here, and I'm going to do this kind of dented steel to make it look like a cannonball. Now last but not least, we need to add the projectile movement component as well. This component lets us make this actor behave like a projectile, where it can just start moving immediately when it spawns. And that's it for this video. We're gonna configure this projectile and put it in the game next time. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I put a projectile in my level. So we've got our cannonball here, and what we're gonna do is configure our projectile movement component. We're only gonna change two things. One is the initial speed. We're gonna put that to 500. So that means right when it spawns, it'll start moving in the direction it's facing. And then last thing is we're gonna turn off the projectile gravity scale. So right now this is on, which means our projectile will fall slowly as it spawns, just according to gravity. We don't want that. We want it to just to be a normal straight line. So once that's set up, we can place one of these in our level. All right, now that that is in there, let's start the game and see what happens. And perfect. When I start the game, it just keeps moving and moving and moving and moving. So we'll have it destroy when it hits something next time, but for now it just keeps moving infinitely. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I destroyed our projectile whenever it hits anything. So we're gonna move back into the blueprint for the projectile here. We're gonna go to the event graph, and I'm gonna add a node called onHit event. Now there's a lot of options here for an onHit event. We can pretty much ignore all of them. All we really wanna do is if this thing hits anything, we want it to destroy the actor. That's pretty easy. There's gonna be one more thing that we need to do on our collision, is we need to make sure that the collision preset is on block all. So that preset means that anything that comes into collision, into the sphere collision that we have, if any object comes inside there, it's gonna trigger the onHit event. All right, let's play this in our level again. There we go, it moves, and then boop, it poofs or just deletes itself once it hits that wall. All right, that's what we were going for. We can add some damage events and stuff later now that it visually looks good. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and last week I asked if you liked a dimming or strobing effect better. To recap, here's what the strobing effect looked like, and this is what the dimming effect looked like. Comments were super even, so I compromised and mixed a little bit of both, and here's what I came up with. We start at 0 and we scale down to 5, which means that the light gets super bright for a second, and then it comes back down to a normal value. It'll flicker a little bit before dimming completely. Let's look at that in game. So as you can see, it gets really bright, one quick flash before it disappears. And that's it. Thanks for those who commented. It was fun seeing what you guys thought, and we'll definitely do more of these questions in the future. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I imported an FBX file. All right, so today we're gonna import some files into Unreal Engine, and that file format is an FBX. It's one of many different static mesh types. This one's the most popular and also recommended in the Unreal Engine documentation, so we should always try to find an FBX file. There's a lot of resources online too where you can find these files, some ranging from free assets to paid assets. The one we're going to use is free, courtesy of GameDev.tv. So over in Unreal itself, I'm going to click this import asset option. I'll select my cannon and cannon base, open that up, and there's two things we don't want on this import option screen, and they're the import materials and the import textures. So we select import all, and there they are. We can open them up. There's our cannon base, and here's the cannon itself. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I made a cannon blueprint. All right, so we've got our cannon and our cannon base imported into the project. So now we need to make a blueprint. I've got that new blueprint open, and so now we need to add our two meshes, the cannon base. We want to make the cannon base the root, so let's drag that up there. And then let's add our other mesh, which is the cannon itself. Those actually got placed nicely by default, so we don't need to edit the position of them, but we do want to add some materials. So I added some steel to the base, and then a chrome finish on the cannon itself. All right, now that that blueprint's set up, we have the ability of dragging the cannon and the cannon base into our level. Now we're ready to start programming in our projectile to spawn from this blueprint instead of its own blueprint. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and normally I have an intro here, but I took it off for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you like the intro or if you prefer that it's not there. Okay, so today I added an arrow to act as our projectile spawn point. So we need to add something on our cannon that we can reference in the visual scripting, so we can code in where our cannonball should spawn. I'm going to make use of an arrow component, so we're going to add that here, and we want this arrow to be a child of the cannon itself. So this arrow is going to be invisible when we actually play the game, but it helps us understand where that cannonball is coming from and helps visualize where it's going to go, as well as adds a point for us to reference when we want to spawn it in. So there we go, arrow is placed. That's it for now. We will add some coding next time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to repeatedly spawn our projectile from the cannon. And so the first thing we're going to add is a delay, and then to spawn the projectile, we're going to use something called spawn actor from class, which is pretty straightforward. We're going to select our BP projectile class. Like we set up in the last video, our cannonball is going to spawn at that arrow, so that's our projectile spawn point. We'll get the world location and we'll get the world rotation. We're gonna leave the scale alone, and then instead of doing anything with this node, collision handling override, we are gonna collide. So we need to move over to our cannon and we need to select the no collision preset. Then last step is we just need to loop this back into the beginning of the delay. Let's give that a try in the game. All right, there we go. Every second it is spawning a new cannonball, and that cannonball is immediately getting destroyed when it hits the wall. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added some variables so that we can change the properties of our cannons. So there's two variables we want to add today. The first one is the spawn transform scale. I added a float variable called projectile scale. So this will let us change how big the cannonball is. Right now it's very big. Then we want to connect this to our spawn transform scale. So we have that variable set up. One more variable that we want is we want to change this delay and promote it to a variable. And this is going to be our fire rate. So with those variables set up, let's simulate the game and see how it goes. All right, great. Our cannon is looking like a real cannon, and we have some variables to play around with, so it feels good when it's implemented into the game. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to promote a variable so that we can change the variables on each cannon in our level. All right, to promote a variable, all we really got to do is we'll select that variable, and there's a toggle option over here on the details that says instance editable. If we check that, compile and go back, whenever we select a cannon, we can see down here that the projectile scale pops up. So let's go back quick and promote our fire rate as well. So now we have the ability to change these on a cannon by cannon basis. So on this far cannon, let's have the fire rate be very slow. The middle one, let's have it be pretty normal. And the one on the right, let's set that to a smaller scale, but have the fire rate go even faster at 0.25. All right, let's simulate that and see how it goes. Sweet, so that's a great level editing tool where now we can change these things depending on where we want the cannon to be and what kind of difficulties we want to present the player. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I changed some of our promoted variable properties. So right now when we select the cannon, we have these two variables that we can change, the scale and the fire rate. We go back into the blueprint and select one of our variables. We can see that there's a category option and then it says default. If we just type something else in here, like cannon properties, and over in our level with the cannon selected, we now have our fire rate is under cannon properties, scale still under default, so let's move that over, and we can just drag that into the right group. And the last thing that we can do is we can set a range to either help you remember when you're making your level, oh yeah, I don't want to go negative here, or hey, this cannonball gets really funky when it's at 500% scale. So we can clamp these ranges. And now if we use the slider to try to get outside of that range, it won't let us. Our minimum is 0.25 and our maximum is 1. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I started on a simple animation that'll make our cannon look way better when it fires. So right now when our cannon fires, it's static, and so it looks pretty cheap or fake. It'd be awesome if our cannon barrel was actually moving whenever it fired a cannonball. There's a cool way of simulating this by changing the location of our cannon barrel. So right now our cannon barrel is at 0 on the y-axis. If we drag this smaller to about -20, it looks like it just has some recoil from a recently fired cannonball. And then if it comes back to 0, it looks like it's reset. So I added a timeline here in our blueprint. Let's open it up. And now remember that our value is our y-axis location for the cannon. So once we hook this up, we'll be changing our y-axis of the cannon barrel so that it starts at a certain position, it'll move in the negative y direction 20 units, and then return back to normal. We'll get this all tied into our program next time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I made some progress on animating our cannon when it fires. So we have our timeline set up where the barrel location is gonna change. So now we need to hook up the rest of it. We're gonna set our relative location of the cannon barrel. And if you remember when we set up our timeline, we only were looking at the y-axis, so we'll just tie that in there. All right, perfect. So now we're setting the location of that y-axis of the barrel throughout the time in our timeline. So now we can set this up with the rest of the program. So we need to add another output on our timeline that says, hey, my cannon just fired. Start the delay again and repeat this loop. And we can do that with an event track, and we'll add that and tie it all in and see how this works next time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today we finished our cannon animation when it fires. All right, so let's go into our timeline because we need to add a new type of graph, which is called an event track. So this one's pretty simple. We're just gonna get an output value exactly when this timeline starts. So our point here can just be at 0, 0. If we compile and come back to our blueprint, we can see we got a new output called cannon fired. So that's what we wanted. We now have an output pin that tells us exactly when the timeline starts instead of when the timeline is running or when it's finished. So we'll tie our spawn actor right into play from start because we want the timeline to restart every time it hits there. And then now we can pull our cannon fire output and loop that back in to the beginning of our delay. With everything hooked up, let's go back to our level and try this out. Perfect. So every time it fires, we can see that the cannon recoils when the ball comes out. All right, that looks much better and way more dynamic. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I turned our cannonball into a laser. So right now the projectile our cannon is firing is a cannonball. I got a comment suggesting that I should turn that cannonball into a laser, and I wholeheartedly agree, so let's get that done. So we'll open up our projectile blueprint right now, and we'll change the static mesh from a sphere to a cylinder. All right, we got the cylinder oriented, and then put in a new collision box around it. Let's clear the material. Now let's make a new material. We're gonna use emissive color, so let's select red. We need to multiply it so that it's super emissive. So we've got our emissive scaled up to 500. That looks good. Let's apply it to our projectile here. All right, great. That looks like a nice glowing laser. Now that that's all set up, let's play our game and see how it looks. That in fact looks like a laser. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I did a little bit of cleanup in our cannon blueprint now that we are almost finished with it. So the first thing we want to clean up is the section before the timeline. We can collapse it all to a function, everything except for the delay. Anything that takes time to complete or waits for something to complete, we can't collapse to a function. So the nodes that are selected are spawning our projectile, so we can collapse this to a function, and we'll rename that function spawn projectile. So the only thing that's to the right of the timeline is this the set relative location, but we do have the cannon barrel and stuff here too, so might as well collapse this. We'll name that cannon fire. All right, there we go, all cleaned up. So now that that's organized, we can move on to the next section of programming our cannon, and that is applying damage. So we'll do that next time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I improved the look of our laser. So I got a comment suggesting that we should round the edges of our projectile. So here's our projectile right now. It's just a basic cylinder. Let's add a sphere on both ends. Now with those spheres added, we'll apply our laser material. All right, there we go. It's rounded out a bit. We also bumped the scale down a bit, so let's see how it looks. And if we can track with it, it does look a little bit more rounded. I got another suggestion to speed up the projectile after it's fired. Now here's how the code looks for that sped up projectile. With those in place, let's see how the laser looks. Now that does look a lot better, but imagine you're trying to roll through this level and you're trying to avoid that laser. It might be a little difficult to gauge where that laser is gonna be, and you might have some frustrating deaths. Let's revert this change for now, but I will collapse it to a function, and we can tie this in later if we choose to use it in the future. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I got our crystals rotating in the game. So I got another suggestion that said it would be cool if these crystals could rotate. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab that start rotation. We'll pull out the node here and add an addition function. We want the angle to change by 1 each tick. Then we'll use a function called add actor local rotation, where we can set the delta change in rotation. When we play our game, we can see that the crystals are now rotating. There's an issue, however, where depending on our speed, the crystal starts spinning really fast. To fix this, what we need to do is once we overlap with that crystal, we need to pause this event tick. So we can use something called set actor tick enabled. It'll disable all tick events. Now when we roll over a crystal, it just stops rotating and gets sucked into the marble. Awesome. Thank you for your suggestions. It's really fun implementing them, and I hope you guys suggest some more stuff soon. See you next time. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to apply damage using our projectile. Alright, so it's time to finally add damage to the game. Whenever a projectile hits anything, the only thing that happens is it'll destroy the actor immediately. Before that happens, we want to apply damage. Unreal's damage system is excellent, and there's really little that we have to do. Damage itself is baked into many other functions on the software. So we'll just use this apply damage node to tell the game that when the projectile hits something, it should be applying a damage event. We'll tie that in and then have the actor get destroyed after it applies damage. This pin called other on the event hit node returns which actor got hit, and so we'll want to tie that into the damage actors, and then we want to bump our base damage up to 1 just so it actually registers that damage is being dealt. Now that's it. We're not going to use any of these other nodes. So there we go. Damage is set up. We now need to go over to the player and program in how we want to react to that damage. So we'll do that next time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added how we should respond to receiving damage from anything like these projectiles. Alright, so right now we are applying damage when the projectile hits our player, but nothing's happening to the player because we don't have this set up in our code yet. So what we're going to add here is an event node called any damage, and as the name suggests, whenever any damage across the whole level, whether that's a cannon or something else dealing damage, deals damage to our player, we can choose what we want to happen. In this case, we're going to do something fairly simple just to test it out, and that's use a print string to show up in the console when we get hit. All right, with our string set up, let's try this out. So now when I'm getting hit by the laser, you can see the player got hit message pop up. So that means that that function is working. So now we can work on getting a typical health value for the ball and having the game reset if we lose all of our health. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I made a game over function for whenever we get hit by any projectiles. So right now when we get hit, all we do is display this print string that says that the player got hit. What we want to do is let's get rid of that print string, and what we want to happen is we want the level to reset just like it does when we fall off the cliff. So over in our level box blueprint, all of this selected code is doing that. Whenever we fall off the cliff, it restarts the level and does a camera fade. So let's cut that out. So we'll paste that over here in our player blueprint. So now when we get dealt any damage, it'll restart the level and do that camera fade. All right, so let's check that out by playing the game. Now when we roll over to a projectile, screen fades out and we restart. All right, great. Now we have a working game over function where if we get hit by a laser, we'll lose the game. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added a damage volume. So right now when we play the game, if we get hit by a projectile, the level resets, but however, when we fall off, the level doesn't reset anymore. Now that's because we moved that code from the level trigger over to our player, so that whenever the player gets dealt damage, it'll restart the level and do the camera fade. Now to make use of that code in our player blueprint, we can have the level box apply damage instead of doing all the reset stuff. So once damage is applied, it'll execute this level reset. So we add our apply damage node there. We can actually get rid of all of this stuff, and our other actor is just going to be the damage actor. All right, now let's try that out. When we fall off the cliff, we hit that box and then the level resets. Then the same thing will happen if we get hit by a laser, we still reset. So there we go. We have 2 conditions where we can lose the game, and we'll add more next time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games. Today I'm doing a little bit more cleanup now that we have some functioning game over situations. All right, the cleanup that we're gonna do is over here in the player blueprint. So we have all of these nodes that are essentially resetting the level when we get dealt damage. Let's collapse that to a macro. Now we have a delay in that, so we have to use a macro instead of a function. Our level trigger box isn't really a level trigger anymore. It's actually just damaging you if you get inside it. Let's rename that to damage volume. Then our last bit of cleanup is after our timeline in the crystal. We have the crystal doing a bunch of stuff when it overlaps with the actor. Let's collapse this to a macro. Now we had to use a macro there because we can't put a function inside of a function. Now after cleanup, it's always good to just double check that everything's working right. So let's get hit. We'll fall off. Good, those are both resetting the game, and we can still pick up the crystal and it still does all of its fancy pickup stuff. Great, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I set up a macro library. So right now we have a macro called isPlayer that's in our crystal blueprint. This is a very general macro, and we're gonna actually want to do the same exact thing in a different blueprint. However, we can't just copy and paste this macro from one blueprint to another because they're both local to that blueprint. What we need to do is make this macro global so that it can be accessed in any blueprint. And to do that, we'll make a macro library. All right, we'll open up that library and it automatically makes a new macro. So we're gonna copy and paste this isPlayer one from our crystal so we can go into that. Now we still need to set up our inputs and outputs. So our inputs is just a general execute node and then our actor. And our outputs are either isPlayer or isNotPlayer. And there we go. So now we have the same macro that we were using before, but we can use it in whatever blueprint we want. All right, great. That's it for this video. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I started setting up a win condition. I'm here at the end of our level. You can see that we start on the other side and you're supposed to collect all the crystals, get to the end, and then you win. We don't have anything coded up yet, so we're gonna do that today. So what we wanna do is I'm gonna add another blueprint. It's gonna be an actor, and this is just gonna be the win volume. In this blueprint, all I'm going to do is I'm going to add one component, and that is a box collision. So now I can drag this box into my game. So now we can code something that can happen whenever anyone enters this box. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I started setting up a win condition. So we'll go back to the box blueprint and we'll start using this actor begin overlap. And what we'll do is we'll grab our macro isPlayer just to double check that whoever's coming into the box is the player. And that's one of our conditions to win, is just make it to the level. But the next one is to check that they've collected all the crystals. So when you roll over a crystal right now, the actor's getting destroyed itself in the level. Since that's how we set it up, we can just ask the game that whenever we roll into this box, how many actors are left in the level. And we'll use a function called getAllActors of class, where we can designate our class and we can make sure that that is the crystal. So now what's happening is when the player rolls into the volume here, it says, hey, is this the player? If it is, it'll go through the world and give us every single actor that's a crystal, and it'll put all of those into an array. Now I haven't done anything with arrays yet, so I will explain that in the next video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I'm implementing a check to grab how many crystals are left in the level. So we set up this win volume last video. Now over in the code, what we're doing is we're grabbing all the actors of the crystal class, and whatever crystals are remaining, it's listing them in an array. And so what we can do here is we can grab the length of that array. And the length means how many actors are still in the level. As a refresh over here in our world outliner, you can see that we have crystals from essentially 1 to 20. These are all individual pieces of the level, but when we roll over one, they get deleted one by one. So this array length function is checking how many crystals are left in the level. And then we have this less than or greater than, where it's checking if it's 0 or lower. And if it is, we can say that you win. So once we have this win condition that becomes true, we can move on to the next level or finish the game or whatever we want to do. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned about pure and impure functions. So I just noticed something in our blueprints that I looked into a little bit, and it's the fact that we have functions here that are either green or blue. Now functions are essentially doing the same thing, so why are there two different colors here? Well, that's because these are called pure and impure functions. A pure function is green and it'll never change anything about the game. It's purely there to grab information and move it somewhere else. While the blue impure function can change anything about the game. So in this specific instance, it's setting the actor location, so where an actor is going to be. And the green node here is getting the actor location. And knowing the difference between these two can protect variables that we don't want changed. Alright, so that was a quick description of pure and impure functions. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I printed out if we win or lose the game when we make it to the end of the level. Alright, so in our win volume blueprint here, we have our function that's checking to see how many crystals are remaining. So we're just gathering information here, so this should probably be a pure function. So I'll select this, go down to pure, and go down to constant as well, just to make sure nothing else can change this value. Alright, then I added a branch here, and the Boolean value is true if we still have crystals remaining, and it's false if we do not have crystals remaining. So let's pull out two print strings here for the true or false. If it's true, it'll say that crystals are still remaining, and if it's false, it'll say no crystals are left and that we win. Now let's test this out. I only have these two crystals in the level, and the middle is our win box. So it says crystals are still remaining. Let's collect this one, collect the last one, and go back over. And there we go. Now it says that there's none left and that we win. All right, we can move on now that that's working. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I started setting up a level switch function. So right now when we win the game, we're just calling a print string. Let's get rid of these. Let's add a new function and call it level complete. And then we'll throw this into the blueprint and attach it to the false. So when no crystals are remaining, we will execute this function. So we're gonna add a variable here, and it's gonna be called level names. And now there's two things that we have to do. We wanna change the variable type to just a name. And right now this is only one value, a single name. If we click this little icon next to the name, we have some other options here, and this checkerboard looking one is called an array. So we're gonna make this an array, compile, and now we can add a bunch of different level names. So we only have one level right now, but we'll add two just to make use of the array. Our first level is called level 1, and our second level will be called level 2. And I made a new blank level here. We're just gonna save it as level 2 so that we can reference this. We'll swap back to our first level. All right, first step of that function set up. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I got our current level index. The next thing we need to set up is we need to add another function, and this function will be the current level index. So what we're doing here is we're trying to find what level we're on and return the index value of our level name array. We have our name array set up with 0 and 1, where 0 is level 1 and 1 is level 2. So in our new function, we're gonna get our current level name, then we're gonna grab our level names array, and we have a find item node here. So what this is gonna do is it's gonna grab the current level name, which is level 1. It will search through this whole array, find a variable that matches that name, and then let us know what the index value is of that array. Then we're gonna grab an output node and set it as an integer. All right, with that set up, we'll know what current level we're on when we complete a level, and we can use that information to figure out which level we should go to next. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added a check to see if the level that we just beat was the final level. So in our blueprint here, we have this function we made last time where it's grabbing the current level index. What we wanna do is check to see if this index is the last index in our level names array. So we'll get our level names real quick. We'll use a node called last index, and this will return the last index in the array, which at this point is index number 1, which is our level 2. So level 2 is our final level. Then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna see if these two values are equal, and we can return either a yes or a no, so a Boolean. And we just need to set up a return value and link that to the code we just made. made. Now this is a function in itself, so we're gonna collapse it to function. We'll rename it to isFinalLevel. So with that set up, once you get to the end of the level, it'll check if it's the last level that we have set up, and it'll return either yes, it's the last level, or no, it's not. We'll keep expanding on this next time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to load a new level when we complete one. All right, next thing up for our level complete function is we're gonna add another function, and it's gonna be called load next level. So what we wanna do here is grab the current level index. We already have a function for this set up, so we can just use that. And whatever our current level index is, we're gonna want to add 1 to it. Then we'll pull in our level names, and we wanna get a copy of those. So what we're doing here is we're grabbing a list of our level names. We're seeing what level we're currently on. We're gonna add 1 to it, and then this will output the name of the next level. So we can use the open level function and tie that into the name of the level that should get opened. Now we can collapse all this stuff to a function, and that function can be called get next level name. Now back in our level complete function, we can pull in the new one that we made, and we can tie this to the false, so it'll load the next level if we're not currently on the final level. All right, we'll finish this up next time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I finished up our level complete function. So the last thing to do is add something that'll happen once we complete the final level, and this is gonna be real simple. We're just gonna add a quick game function. There's some other things we could do here, like add a heads up display or a leaderboard, but for now we're just gonna quit the game once you win, and we'll add some of that fancy stuff later. All right, one last thing to do here, and that is clean it up a little bit. The only cleanup we're gonna do is add a category for all of these level complete functions. We'll call it level management, and so we'll drag everything that we just made under it. So our level management category comprises of level complete, current level index, isFinalLevel, load next level, and get next level name. All right, there we go. Now we have the ability to make new levels and add them to the game. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I changed a little bit of our movement physics. So in certain parts of our level, you'll notice that the ball kind of keeps on spinning around and rotating. This can kind of mess your movement up a little bit. And the reason it freely rotates like that is because we don't have any dampening on the ball. So we're gonna add some to help with movement. And this option is over in the player blueprint. We have 2 options here, linear damping and angular damping. Linear is damping in the X, Y, and Z directions, while angular is damping the rotational axes. Since the marble usually freely rotates, it's angular damping that we want to change, and so let's put that to 0.8 and see if it still happens. Now you can see when we go up and down this ramp, the marble stays very consistent and doesn't rotate around. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I changed a little bit of our movement physics. Now there's one more thing that we want to change for our movement, and that's our acceleration. Some of these ramps are very difficult to get up, so we want to change our acceleration multiplier, which is in the same blueprint. We have it set to 15 right now. Let's change it to 30, and we'll try this again. And you can see we move a lot faster now, but I can also stop a lot faster. So this really helps with movement and kind of increases the speed of the game. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to easily change our camera settings. When I add new levels, I might want to make a horizontal level instead of going forward. And to do that, we would need to change the camera. So let's add a function where we can easily change those settings. So I'm in our player blueprint, and I added a new function called adjust spring arm. There's a function I want to use called set target arm length. What that's going to do is it's going to change our arm length. That's this red line here on where our camera is sitting. So our target's going to be the spring arm, and let's add 2 variables here. One's going to be our distance, so that's the distance the camera is away from us, and the other's the pitch, which is the angle that the camera's at. Now we'll tie distance to target arm length, and the pitch is going to be set via the set world rotation, and then the pitch is going to be the y-axis. Now that's it for this function. We're not going to call it inside the player pond. We're actually going to call it inside our level, and we'll talk about that next time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I changed our camera position. All right, so over here in our level blueprint, we're going to get our player pond, and we want to call the function that we set up last time on changing those variables for the spring arm. Now this node is getting the pawn class, which is a parent of our player. So we're going to have to cast to the player so that we can access that function. And to do that, we're gonna type in cast to player pawn or BP player. Now our object is the return value of the player pawn. So now that we're casting to BP player, we can call that function adjust spring arm. So now we can set our distance and our pitch. Our distance will be 850 and our pitch will be -90, which is going to be a top-down view. Let's try that out. And there we go. We were able to change our camera depending on the level. It'll change our camera settings to what we set up there. So if we do the same function in a different level, we can have the camera be set up in a different way. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I set up a heads-up display. All right, so we want our game time to be counting down like it's showing up here. To do that, I had to create two blueprints. One was a Hud blueprint, and the other was a Widget blueprint. The Hud blueprint's primary purpose is just calling the HUD into the game and displaying it on the user's screen. And the Widget blueprint handles all the technical details like grabbing the game time. So in our HUD blueprint here, the only thing that we need to do is we need to create a widget. So at the begin play event, we'll use a node called create widget. And I picked my new widget blueprint called BP widget. We then use a node called add to viewport, and it'll add whatever information is in this widget to the player's screen or their viewport. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I set up a heads-up display. Now over in the widget, this is where we set up what the player should see. So I have a custom text block in here that I named game time. Let's compile and play our game and see if this pops up. And there it is. You can see it at the top of the screen now where it says game time. This is just static text right now. Next time we'll set this up as a function so that we can tie it into how much time has passed when you play the game. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I changed our static game time text to a function. All right, I'm back in our widget, and we want to make this game time text a function. If I want to add a function where its return value is whatever text we want to display, I'm going to use something called a binding. And we can click this drop down and create a binding. It'll open up a new function, and let me swap over to the function that I made already. All right, here's our game time function. What this is doing is we're using a function called get game time in seconds. This just returns the amount of time you've been playing on a level. And we're going to use a new function called append, where this just lets us combine a text screen. So I have game time is as the top part, then I have our game time in seconds combined for the middle, and at the end it says space seconds. And then we'll convert that to a string and return it. Let's compile it and see if it works. All right, now that we press play, we can see that our game time is ticking up in the top of the screen. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I set up a local leaderboard for your best times when you beat a level. Now this feature relies heavily on save game nodes and the HUD, and so in the next few videos I'll explain what I did to make this feature function. I have the level completely repeating, so every time I go in the win area, it'll essentially beat the level, and you can see as I go through, it's constantly updating my top 5 times. Alright, so to get this feature working, the first thing that we have to do is create a save game blueprint. Now this is just another default type of blueprint. If we type in save game, it'll show up, and we can select that. There's really no visual scripting here. All we're doing is setting up the variables that we want to save and then use later. So I have a few different variables here set up. The first one we have is the player name. The next one is our best times. That's our top 5 times. And these next two are just needed when we load the data later. So it's a save slot and the user index. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to save and load game data. Alright, so we're over here in the level complete blueprint. We have this node here called create save game object, and all that's doing is giving us this blue object, which is a reference to our save game class. So in here we put in our BP save info, that's our save game blueprint, and this just creates a reference that we can use when we load game data. This node asks for 2 things. It wants the slot name and the user index, and these are things that we have set up in our save game blueprint. And then since we're referencing something outside of this blueprint, we have to cast to our save game. Then once that cast is complete, we can start referencing all of our variables that we have in our save game data. And once we update all of our variables that we want to when we're calling to the save game data, we can use the save game to slot node to set those variables so we can access them again later. Alright, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to load game data, update the variables, and then save it again. And what we have here are all the variables that we're going to update when the level gets completed. Most of these aren't going to change: player name, save slot, and user index. But the thing that is going to change is the best time, but only if the current run was faster than other runs. So to do that, we're going to have to check if the current run was better. So what we're doing in this macro is we're grabbing the time it just took for the player to complete the level, and we're grabbing the array index, which is each slot from 1 to 5 of the top 5 times. Now we're going to get the specific value of time 1 in the array, and we're going to see if that's greater than our current time. If it is, we're going to replace that time with the current time. If it isn't, it's just going to move on and not do anything. All right, so that's how we replace the top time. Next time I'll show you how I replace the other times. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I learned how to check all 5 top times it took to complete a level and see if the recent run earned a spot on the leaderboard. So what we have right here is we're checking to see if the current time was faster than the best time. What we need to do is check all the other times. So how we're doing that, which is a little inefficient right now, but how we're doing that is kind of a cascading logical check where we're looking at array index 0, which is our fastest time. We're checking to see if the current time is better. If it is, great, we're going to move along and replace it. If it isn't, we're going to move to the next one, which is the second best time. If the current time's faster, we'll replace it. If it's not, we'll keep going. And so we'll do that for the third best time, fourth best, and fifth best. Now that we've checked all the top 5 times, if none of them are faster, that means that the player didn't complete the level faster than the leaderboard. So we'll just move along to the rest of our code. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added a little watermark at the bottom of our screen when we play the game. So this little icon here is Bulwark's icon, and I wanted to add that to the HUD just to play around with how you add an image to the HUD. Now this is a super easy process because Unreal has an import function where you can just import pictures and they get converted to textures. So once I click the import button, I can choose any picture here. Let's add this one too, and it'll automatically load it in and save it. Now over here in our HUD, I just have an image object. Once that's placed in there, we can go down to appearance image and we can select our new file. And we want to make sure our size is still the correct ratio. And there we go, our image is in the HUD. So now when we play our game, it'll show up in the middle there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I simplified our best time loop. So we have a leaderboard here of our best times. What happens is when we complete the level, the game will check to see if the current time is better than any of our top scores. It does this through this cascading logic, which is a little heavy on the processing side of things. So we're going to replace this with a for loop with a break. All right, I put that loop in there and cleaned it up, and man, does that look better. So we're still using the same macro, but instead of copying this 5 times, we're instead just gonna change the index to go from 0 to 4 with our loop. And then we have a break in here, so if we ever do get to a time that's better, it won't check the rest of the times, it'll just replace the top one. All right, that's it. Thanks for your inputs here. This should be a lot more of an efficient way to check our leaderboard. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added a key that you can press to reset the leaderboard. All right, so I'm over here in our player blueprint where we have all of our movement stuff, and I added the same thing that we have in our win level where we're creating a save game object, we're loading it, casting to it, and all that. But instead of setting our best times, I'm setting an array that is all 999, so it's essentially 999 seconds. And all of this is triggered on the Z key. So whenever we press the Z key, it'll execute these functions. So over in the game, you can see our best times are adding up. If I press the Z key, they'll go back to 999 and keep going. So Z is not the best key for this in the future. It should be in a main menu, but for now that works. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I added some text on the screen that tells us what level we're on. I have a function here in the global library that's just getting the current level name. It's finding it in our list of names, and it's letting us know which array index it is, and then adding 1 to give us the actual level number. Now over on the HUD, I added some text here with a binding that displays the level number, and here is that binding. What we're doing is we're getting that level number from the function, we're just appending it, so it'll be level space whatever that number is, converting it, and then we're displaying it. So simple as that. When we play, you can see we start on level 1, we beat the game or beat the level, and it increments to level 2, and it'll keep going that way. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I started splitting out our leaderboard so that it is different for each level. So what we had before is an array for our leaderboard, and it was just our best 5 times, and that array was only size 5. Since we're gonna have 5 levels in this game, we essentially need 25 values. So I increased our best times array here to hold 25 array elements, and I set the default to 999 for them all. Now essentially the first 5 values, 0 through 4, that'll be our level 1 score. Next 5 through 9 will be our level 2, and so on. And since I added those, I needed to come over here. This is our reset function where we press Z to reset all of our top scores. I just had to bump this time reset array up to 25 elements as well. The next thing we have to do is our for loop that's checking the best time. It's only going from 0 to 4. We need to add a multiplier that takes account the current level. So we'll do that next time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I split up our leaderboard so that it is a separate leaderboard for each level. So the first thing we need to do is get our level number, and I have that from our function that we made last time. And so that's coming into this macro check all times. Then we're gonna do a simple conversion. We're multiplying our level number by 5 and then subtracting it by 5 for our first index and subtracting it by 1 for our last index. That formula works out. You can just trust me on that one. All right, so our array should be getting updated with the correct numbers based on the level. Next time, we'll make sure our display takes the level number into account as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. I'm learning how to make video games, and today I finished up our display so that you can see what our best times are. So we're gonna go into the function here for time 1. Now each of these time displays are essentially grabbing what our array value should be. They're doing the same multiplication of our level number to get the appropriate array element, and then just returns that value. Now for each different time, we do need to increment this value down. So our second one's 4, third is 3, and so on. All right, that's it. Now you can see that we have different values here on level 1. And when I beat it and go to level 2, we have a whole different set of values. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. All right, so I'm wrapping up development on this mini game. There will probably be some more tweaks before I release it, but for this video series, we're gonna wrap it up. And as a final send-off, I'm just gonna play level 1 here and try to get a really fast time. My goal is gonna be under 20 seconds. I think that's very ambitious, but let's get going. This is the hardest part in the middle. If you go a little too fast down the ramp, you just fly off. And I have unfortunately done that a lot of times during testing and development. Ooh, so there's 20 seconds. 30 seconds seems very achievable, but 20 is rough. But thanks for watching, everyone. I'll be back soon with a brand new game. I'll see you then.